morning. So I'm Cindy Grimes, I think you all know that. And we've been talking for the past month and a half about this idea of release and surrender and letting go. And I thought I was done, but I realized I wasn't. I still had a little more to talk about. Welcome. So, this is the quote that pretty much has set up the whole month, or month and a half, or 2 months of what I've been talking about. And it is that non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment are the 3 aspects of true freedom and enlightened living. That idea of letting go, of releasing, is actually spiritual practice. It really is. We are called continually to release. Things come into our lives and we let other things go. It's really circulation when we think about it. Everything circulates, right? We take a breath. If I told you take a breath and hold it in, and just hold it because it's a really good breath. So you want to hold on to it as long as possible. Eventually you have to let it go, right? No matter how good it felt, no matter how important it was in that moment, we let it go. And that's how life is. Things come into our lives and they stay for a little bit and we release them. Where we get hung up, where we have problems, is when we refuse to let go of things that we need to let go of, that we would be better served by. And so we broke it down. Eckhart Tolle breaks it down for us in non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment. So I shared some of my story last week for those of you who were here, in that, you all think I teach this stuff for you. You come here and how many people tell me every Sunday, that message was just for me, it's just what I needed to hear. And I'm teaching what I need to know and to learn. And I didn't realize just how much I was going to be using all of these things until I went to the ministers' conference last week in Dallas. And as I shared with you all, most of you, for those of you who were here, that I was there with a threefold purpose. I was there to mingle with my peers, with my tribe, like the inner tribe, the other ministers who do the work I do, as well as to have my ordination panel, which is, for those of you who don't know that, in some denominations, as you graduate, you are ordained automatically. In our tradition, it takes at least 3 years to be ordained. And ordination means that you are making a lifetime commitment to your ministry. So I was there for my panel, which is an interview with 3 people who say, yay or nay, you're ready or you're not, or you need to take a little more time. And then the last piece was to teach a workshop. So if you were here last week, you know how it went down. That my ordination panel didn't go the way I expected it to go, the way I'd hoped. So I got some opportunities in real life, real time, to release some things very quickly, as it was not the outcome I was expecting, and I was not happy about it. There were a lot of feelings that went along with that, anger, sadness, embarrassment, all kinds of things. And as we did our process, which, by the way, we're going to do the same process after service, for those of you who want to stay this afternoon, it's something we call visioning. And what they did is part of this ceremony and this visioning process is what we do in visioning is open up to the larger knowing, to the greater mind. And we do that in a group, and there's a series of questions that come. And number 1 is, what is your vision? What is the vision? What is Spirit's highest vision for this situation, for this community, for my ministry, for my life, for whatever it is that you want to put out, the question out to the universe? What is Spirit's highest vision for this? And the next question is, well then, what do I need to release to allow this vision to come? And what do I embrace? And then you wrap it all up. Is there anything else Spirit would like me to know about this? So as we went through the process, I think I shared this. The first question is, what was your vision? And I was sitting there between 2 friends thinking, my vision? I don't know my vision. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know who you are. I just want to go home and get in a ball and cry. That's where I was in that moment of thinking, I don't know what my vision is. The next question is, what would you release? I knew that. I could answer that very quickly. I need to release the anger, I need to release the sadness, I need to release the embarrassment. And then I thought, oh wow, I've been teaching about release. What were those 3 things again? Oh yeah, releasing attachment to outcome. This doesn't look like I thought it was going to look. It looks like something very different. But if I am true and walking my talk and believing and living what I say I'm living, I know that is for greater purpose. So I let go of attachment to the outcome. The next thing was resistance to what is so. How many of us are carrying stuff around from life saying, it wasn't supposed to be like this? Right? How did I end up in this place? Right? Why? And we're carrying this stuff. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Right? And we should all over ourselves. We should all over other people because things should have been other than what they are. And all of that is resistance. All of that's resistance. And it doesn't help you at all. No help whatsoever. So I had to release resistance. Okay, the situation is what it was. I can panel again in 6 months to a year. Okay, I'll accept that. Releasing resistance. The next thing was releasing judgment. And that was kind of a big one because I did have some judgment. I had some judgment of the people on my panel. I had some judgment of myself. I had some judgment of the organization. I mean, the whole thing. All kinds of judgment. Just all kinds of stuff. And so I want to talk about that specifically because judgment is kind of a big one. And this is your view. You'll remember this graphic, some of you. There is the thing that happened. Right? There's the situation that we can look at objectively and see what happened. But what happens is most of us, we're not really objective to these things that happen. We make up a story about it. Right? We make up a story about the thing that happened. So I didn't pass my panel. And the story that I made up about it was these people are questioning my consciousness and they're questioning my commitment. And that really pissed me off. You know, I went on my high horse and do you know how much I have given, how much I have sacrificed, how much money I've spent, how much time? What more do you want from me? Right? That was my story though. You know, that it was my commitment that was in question and my consciousness. And that is where the pain is. You realize that? It's not in the thing that happened. It's in the stories we make up about the stuff that happened. Right? So maybe a relationship breaks up and you tell yourself, oh, that's because I'm not worthy. That's because I'm not good enough. Or you didn't get the job. You make up a story about that. Or somebody dies and you make up a story about that. The thing is that we believe our stories. And there are just really an infinite number of ways that we can interpret the things that happen. So what I did in releasing judgment, separate what happened from the story that I made up about it. Was there another interpretation? Sure, there were probably lots of interpretations. My pain I knew was in the story, so I knew I need to make up another interpretation of this situation right here. And that's what I did. That's what I did. Now, I don't know which interpretation is right. Is one right? Is one wrong? Are they all right? So my interpretation of what happened was that it was for a greater purpose. That situation gave me an opportunity to stand before my peers in a very difficult situation and use every single tool that I have to walk through it. And to rely on the community that was there with me. And the interpretation I have was that in the moment, in the time when I was doing my interview, I did not express my commitment clearly enough. I didn't express my vision clearly enough. They didn't hear it. For whatever reason, there was an opportunity then for me to step up in a new way. And my situation ended up being part of the larger conversation that happened in our workshop, or in our retreat. And there were lots of people that showed up at my workshop. Possibly because they were wondering, what is this woman about? How did she not pass her panel? What was up? Maybe there were some that were curious. Maybe some were genuinely interested in the subject matter. Didn't matter. For the folks that were in the room, they had an experience and they got the bigger vision. They got the bigger picture. Because my vision is that this idea of creating peace centers. And I don't know if you all have noticed the Science of Mind magazine for this month. As I grabbed it on my way to the airport, it says on the front, living as a peace center. And the man in the picture is the leader of our movement. This is Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon. So I was all charged up. I know all of the stars are aligning. Everything is going just right. And I let them know all about the Peace Center. And it didn't quite go the way I expected. I just believe that it was part of the bigger conversation. And I'll be talking more about that as we go on. So I made up a new story about it that was really much more empowering for me. Much more empowering, that allowed me to walk through that situation with probably a little more grace than I would have otherwise. And the other big piece, of course, was having that spiritual community. See, I know that as I go out into our community in Ocala, and I talk about this idea of creating a peace center and using nonviolent communication and teaching these principles of restorative justice, that there are going to be people who maybe don't get it. Mm-hmm. There may be people who say, peace? What are you talking about, peace? You know, nobody's taking my guns, or where's your tiara? Or, you know, is peace even possible? There are all these questions, all these things that come up. And I just kind of anticipate, well, some people aren't going to get it. I didn't anticipate it in my tribe. Mm-hmm. That was the thing. I didn't anticipate it there. And that was part of my pain. But I realized that in having to work through that situation, and I got to that place of releasing, as I said, in the ceremony, I wrote down on my little piece of paper, what would Spirit have, what do you release to embrace your larger vision? So I released all that stuff, right? I released the resistance and the attachment to the outcome and the judgment and all that stuff. And I sat back in my seat, and the next question was, what do you embrace? And that was when the words came to me. I embrace my power. And as I heard it in my mind, I felt it through my body. I embrace my power. And you know what? It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, Amen. What anybody else sees, what they believe, what they understand, what they may not understand. It doesn't matter. Because I know that I am the face of God, just like each one of you. I am the living, breathing, moving voice, hands, feet of Spirit itself. And as long as I am connected to that truth, it doesn't matter what's going on out there. I know what I'm here to do, right? And I'm here to do it. Yes. So that was my aha moment. And because I could do it in that space of love, of support, of people that could see that for me as well, and see it for themselves, that I know now that if I go to a city council meeting, or I go to the school board, or I'm sitting with the sheriff, or anybody else, and I share this vision, and they don't get it, it's okay. It's okay. Because I know what I'm here to do. Mm-hmm. And I know that this is a bigger vision than what is simply mine. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I took this incredible gift of that opportunity and the disappointment and all of it, to walk through it in a very public way and share those gifts now with others. So we released Judgment. Now, I thought I was done because I talked about releasing all of those things that are really kind of painful and hard. You know, it may be easy for you to see how you may need to release a relationship or something that's not working for you. Sometimes we have to release things that feel good. Sometimes we need to release things that we love. And that's even more difficult in many ways. You see, Catherine Ponder, who is a unity teacher and a great prosperity teacher, said that by letting go of the lesser, you automatically make room for your greater good to come in. Sometimes we get so caught up in the smaller things that we don't realize there is something else much greater and much bigger waiting for us. I love that. How many of you know that story? Does that mean anything for anybody? The monkey with his hand in the gourd? I've shared this before. Now I'm told, I don't know this for a fact, but that monkeys are caught in the wild in this way. What they do is they put little goodies, things that monkeys like to eat, fruit, nuts, things like that, and they'll put it in a gourd or they'll put it in a jar where the monkey has to stick its hand in, and it goes to grab the fruit and then it pulls its hand out. Well, what happens when it goes to pull its hand out?
Can't get it out.
It gets stuck. It's stuck. It can't get away. But it's not going to let go of its banana, right? Because it wants that banana, and it's going to hang on to it. What happens to it? Because it's hanging on to that gourd, which is then attached to a tree or something like that, that then they can be captured. Because they want to hang on to that thing because they want it so bad. They end up then hurting themselves, imprisoning themselves, because they refuse to let go of those little trinkets or those little things that they really want.
Yeah.
Yes? I see a hand up back there.
Humans do the same thing. That's a psychological disorder called reactive attachment disorder.
You say it's a psychological attachment. A psychological what?
It's called reactive attachment disorder.
Reactive attachment disorder. Reactive. Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you for that, Anthony. I think, there are all these psychological things, and, people can be obsessive compulsive, or you can be bipolar, or this or that. I think that we all have a little touch of everything. Some of us more extreme than others. I think all of it is a continuum. So we all do this. Don't we all do this? We have a little something that this is the way it needs to be. I'm going to hold on to it. Right? It's this little nugget of something that you think is so important, or that you really love, or you really want to have. And what it is doing is imprisoning you. So more letting go for myself. More letting go. I found this teaching, the science of mind, at this very center about 15 years ago. Many of you know this story. I've shared it a lot of times, that at the point when I found this, I was running my own business, have 3 little kids, married, house, all of that stuff. And if you ask me, life was fine. It was okay. I didn't realize when I came here, there were a lot of things that weren't okay. And there were a lot of things that I was hanging on to, like the monkey with my hand in the gourd, of things needing to look a certain way, or how I thought my life should be, or whatever. Anyway, bottom line, the bottom fell out, and everything went bad at the same time. That we were about to lose the house. I was on the verge of losing my business. I was 100 pounds overweight. I was hypertensive. I had, on the verge of diabetes, all these things. Our marriage was on the rocks. Everything happened at the same time. And I had found this teaching. And I started to use the stuff that I was learning. And I'd sit back in Reverend Peggy's office, and for hours it seemed like, and just, crying and releasing a lot of stuff and a lot of hurt and pain, because I felt safe in the space that I could finally do that. Again, not unlike the experience I had with my ministers, that I felt safe in that space, that I could share my hurt, that I could let them see me bleed, and I would let them take care of me. Similar, very same thing that happened to me when I found this place. So it means a lot to me. This place means a lot to me. What started out, I think it was called Ocala Science of Mind Center, and it's been through all these different evolutions. And this place and this building has been here over 30 years, since 1985. We started the same time as Agape. And for those of you who know the name Agape, now Agape is one of the largest, probably the largest New Thought community in the world, I think, and it's in LA. Well, LA versus Ocala, you understand, so they get 1,000 people on a Sunday morning, we get 40, it's, LA versus Ocala. But again, there's a lot of history here. This is where I found this teaching. I've had many mentors, wonderful relationships. It's just been, and I'm very, very attached to this place. And I've been very attached to what it looks like, and just wanting it to grow, and having these big dreams about, we're going to outgrow this building by 2020, and there'll be thousands and thousands of people watching. Not because of me, but because I understand the power of this teaching. And I know that it can do a lot of good in this world. I know that there are a lot of people that are hungry to hear the message that Spirit is inside of you, in each one of us. So I want to share that message. So as you have heard, those of you who've been here for a little while, know that we've had some financial challenges here. And so we're looking at how do we continue the center, keep it alive, basically, keep it going. And most of the money that was owed was money that was due to me. And so what we have is a model in place that is not working anymore, at least for having a senior minister that gets paid a salary. Right? The bottom line is the center cannot afford to have a senior minister making a living wage. So I was still acting in the role of senior minister, doing all the stuff that a senior minister would do, and essentially not getting paid for it. And there was a point when I realized, oh my gosh,
That's not good.
I have handicapped the center. Because if something happened to me, if another opportunity came, if I got sick, if anything could happen, no one else is going to come here and do what I have done without some kind of compensation.
Absolutely.
Right? So having the minister paid is as important as having the lights on, right? Or we have no center. So I got to the place of, in all of this release work and lots of tears and hanging on like this for dear life. This place can't go down with me at the helm. That just can't happen, right? This is where I found this teaching. I didn't come here to close the place down. I came here to expand it. So I wrestled with that, and I'm there like the monkey with my hand in a gourd. Oh my gosh, I can't let it go. And I realized, attachment really is just a preference. Our attachments are our preferences. It's how we want things to be. I need to let go of my attachment to how things are at the center. And I was able to do that. Right? Deep breath, let it go. And it was like a burden lifted, a burden. The realization that this center was here before me, that if it is indeed an idea in the mind of God, that it continues on long after I am gone. And that Spirit provides the way for it to continue. And when I released that, I didn't even know what a burden it was on me, how much I was carrying. I lost 5 pounds in a week. No kidding. And I came here on a Sunday morning, and I shared that. Some of you were here when I told that story about releasing it. And I also let you know, I said, don't worry about me financially, because Spirit is my source. The center is not my source. Spirit is my source. I know that I can find a pulpit any place else. I know that I can find a job. I'm not worried about it. And I let it go. That was on a Sunday about a month ago. The very next day, I received an email from the people at the River Phoenix Center for Peace Building, which is, I've been doing their curriculum on a volunteer basis. That's what I teach in the prison. It's some of what I teach here. It's actually a lot of what I have been sharing here in the past months. And their email was saying that their director of training and curriculum development was leaving, and they would love to have me fill that position. However, they know I'm very busy, and if I can't do it, would I recommend someone? And I thought, here's an opportunity for me to get paid for the volunteer work that I've been doing. How interesting that is. Now, I'm not sure if I had not released, if I hadn't let it go, the center, the idea of the center being in its current configuration, if I had not let that go, if I would have even considered that possibility. But I did. I considered it. The timing was right. The timing was unmistakable. So I've had multiple conversations with the folks at River Phoenix Center and different negotiations. And the bottom line is that they offered me a position the day before my panel. They offered, I'm going to be working, I accepted the position, I'll just let you know that. I was offered the position, I accepted it. I will be working part-time, and I will be paid very well for my part-time hours. And they're going to allow me, in fact, they want me to continue to do the prison work that I've been doing, and to get the Peace Building Center up and running in Ocala. As part of what I get paid to do. Which then leaves the next question. So what happens with the Center for Spiritual Living? I'm sure you're probably wondering that. I am still committed to the Center for Spiritual Living. My plan is to speak at least twice a month. I can't speak every month, but I'm going to speak at least twice a month and continue to coordinate efforts and write off the debt and we'll work out whatever my new contract is, whatever that letter of call is, that we will work that out, but we will make it something workable for the center, that the center can continue to pay something. And as that money grows, as the base grows, then I'll get paid more. And my commitment to working at the River Phoenix Center is for a year to a year and a half, and then we revisit. And that's what we'll do here as well, is we'll revisit that letter of call as we go forward. But what this does, in my mind, is it is giving us an opportunity. It's giving us an opportunity to move forward in ways that maybe haven't been seen in our organization before. Let me see what this next thing is here. You see, holding on is believing there is only a past. Letting go is knowing that there's a future. I'll say that again. Holding on is believing there's only a past. Letting go is knowing that there is a future. Now think about the things you may be holding on to in your life. Things that may seem very important to you. Maybe you're like the monkey holding on to the goodie in the gourd. And Spirit is wanting to give you something much bigger and much greater that you can't grasp, you can't hold until you let go of the lesser. So I'm letting go of attachment, and I'm inviting us all to do the same thing. The attachment to whatever the current form of this center is for each one of us. Now, this was big conversation in our ministerial gathering. It's been on for months. People have been talking about it, and I'm sure that we are not the only denomination that is having these kinds of questions about the relevance, not just of what we teach, although that did come up. People were asking, is our teaching relevant? You know, maybe people are not sure. I'm thinking people need to be here in droves. Well, maybe they're not, because maybe the teaching's not relevant. Well, I X'd that one out right away. Because I know for myself, I know for the experience I have personally had, I know as I see people who come in the doors here and they grasp this teaching and they start applying these ideas and living from this place of knowing, of truth, that I am one with Spirit, that Spirit lives and moves and breathes through me. As people really get that, their lives change.
Absolutely.
There is no question in my mind that this teaching is relevant. What I'm not sure about is the current form that we deliver it. You see, there are lots of people who are looking for that spiritual connection, but hey, if you just want the information, you can read a book, you can turn on Super Soul Sunday, and you can get your soul fixed that way. You don't have to get up and get dressed. You can stay in your pajamas. Why would you come to a place like this? Right? Community. That's a big piece of it. That's a huge piece. But there's also the folks that are online. You know, that's another way that we communicate with people. After I finish a talk, I go and I check and I say, how many people have watched? And you've got a couple of hundred people that are watching the talk. It's like, where are they? How'd they find out about us? How are they watching? But it's another great avenue for this message to get out there, is for online, so that people who don't live in Ocala can watch and get the message. The bottom line of all of this, for me, comes down to our vision. Our vision, and what is it that we as a community, not me, Cindy Grimes, the minister here, no, as a community, what is important to us? And how do we see the next evolution of CSL Ocala? How would it serve you best? I mean, is it maybe that we, instead of doing Sunday morning, we do Sunday evening, or we do a Friday thing? Would you rather have conversation instead of someone speaking to you for a half hour? Is maybe we get together for an hour and we take a topic and we actually discuss it, where you can all have input into the conversation. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like. But I propose that we vision as a community. And I'm going to invite you to stay after service and experience that visioning process and see what Spirit's highest vision is for CSL Ocala. How do we be the model for Centers for Spiritual Living? See, because we're not the only ones in this kind of a predicament. As I look at the postings for openings in different parts of the country, imagine a church in Northern California that's offering the senior minister $28,000. That's not, exactly. That's not a living wage in Northern California.
No way.
No way. With a master's degree, exactly. We're talking people highly educated who've really put a lot of time and sacrifice into this. So we need to, it is not just CSL.
No.
You know, this is happening in every denomination. There are people, probably Beth can speak to this, in Europe, you know, where it's very secular society and people are not interested in going to church anymore. You know, there are churches closing here. So how do we maintain, not just, we know that we're relevant. How do we get the message out in ways that are relevant to the people we serve? And that's the question that we are investigating. And so I throw that out to all of us. And know that as our vision statement says, we are a model CSL as evidenced by the transformational impact we have on each and every person in our community, the larger community, of Ocala, Marion County, Florida, and the CSL community. That people are now looking, and that's part of what happened in my week with my peers is now, oh, now people know who Cindy Grimes is. That's why. That's I can't fly under radar anymore. I said that, and I like to fly under radar because I'm one of those people who likes to, you know, I'll do what I need to do instead of asking permission. I'll beg forgiveness later. So, anybody else in here like that?
Yes.
So it's an opportunity. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity as I see it for us to be forerunners in our movement to a new way of doing spiritual community, whatever that looks like. So we won't be making any major changes anytime soon. I will still be here. I may not be speaking. You may see me on a Sunday and wonder why is she sitting in the audience. But we're going to have other people that will be other spiritual leaders and teachers that will come and speak on Sunday mornings on the days that I'm not here. And we'll be starting with our very own